Hello, developers, and welcome to the Community Corner podcast, where we have conversations with members of the web development community. I'm your host, Scott Keck-Warren, and today we're talking with Mark Niebergall about his talks at PHP 2024, one of which includes a very interesting sounding tutorial track and a vacancy on the PHP-FIG board. Mark Niebergall is a security-minded PHP staff software engineer and team lead at a cybersecurity software company with many years of hands-on experience with PHP projects. He is the Utah PHP User Group co-organizer, a regular conference speaker, and a PHP-FIG Secretary. Mark has a master's degree in MIS, is CSSLP and SSCP cybersecurity certified, and volunteers for the ISC2 security exam development. Mark enjoys endurance sports, being outdoors, and teaching his 5 sons about writing code. Thank you, Mark, for finding some time to talk to us today.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're one of the speakers at PHP Tech 2024, and one of the topics you're going to be talking about is PHP applications at scale. Can you give us just like a little introduction to what that talk is going to be about?
Yeah, of course. I've worked on projects in the past that were thousands or even millions. The last couple of years, it's been at the billions scale. So we're dealing with data that we have multiple billions of data records. We're trying to make things faster. So we have this data aggregation problem, we have processing problems, we have problems processing files that are in the tens of gigs of size. And so this is a talk that's bringing my lessons learned from working at that scale into how to use that with PHP. We found a lot of little tricks, little ways to speed up processing, especially that size, that normally doesn't work. It might seem counterintuitive. There's different strategies to take in that I'll be going over and talking about. I'm also doing some benchmarking on some PHP functions, and I'll present my findings there, basically going over what's fast and what is not. And so watching for some anti-patterns, some things that might seem nice or handy to use, but are actually really slow. And also different coding strategies to help keep the memory size down as you're working through trying to solve problems. That's really the focus of that talk is, how can you take your PHP application, maybe change some things you're doing to be able to make the code run faster, especially as it goes to bigger scale sizes.
I've been lucky enough to start out at companies where we're very small and we only have thousands of rows and then have scaled up to millions and billions of rows. And it is like the counterintuitive thinking that you just have to completely change how you think about data from like the small data set to the huge data set, right? Like it's just totally like a different perspective. So it'll be interesting to kind of hear some of that information. Can you tell me a little bit about I was intrigued by the performance of the PHP functions. Like, is there anything that you found was staggeringly slow in comparison to other things, or is it just kind of just this little thing gives you a 10% boost or so?
A lot of them are small little boosts. There are some more dabbling into the copy on write. So when array is manipulated, how do you handle that? Doing for each loops versus for loops, doing switch versus match, trying out different newer things in PHP as well versus old things, seeing what scales and what doesn't. Also going into things like single quotes versus double quotes on strings, and how big of a difference does that actually make? Comparing arrays versus objects, and so it's really getting to the nitty gritty, the small things, which might be a little bit when you're dealing with small data, but when you're running through millions and millions of data points, it makes a big difference over time.
It'll definitely be interesting to hear what the results of that are, because I'm sure that there's probably something I can learn there, because I don't generally worry about the performance of PHP itself. Generally, on applications like MySQL is the bottleneck for everything, so we're always waiting for MySQL to return data. So, but it'll be interesting to see what you have found with all of that, especially that double quote single quote thing, because I know for the longest time it was single quotes and don't do string concatenation inside the string. So it'll be interesting to kind of hear about that. In the abstract for your talk, you also talk about database denormalization, which is a concept that I find fascinating as well. It's actually something I'm going to talk about briefly in my talk, because we have like the same kind of thing where it's like, here's a bunch of data, and then we need to be really fast on read, so we denormalize the data. So it sounds like there's a whole lot of content to see in your talk.
Yeah, we found that, say, putting the denormalization on there really speeds it up. So you cut out that join, which sometimes might seem like a fast join, but depending on your database engine may or may not be. And so it may be causing major bottlenecks. So while you might have to store more data, it's going to be significantly faster and save some processing for you in time.
Yeah, and we've started doing table mirroring. We have like tables specific for specific subscribers in order to speed up just their performance. But we have we have the normalized version in one table and the denormalized version specifically for them in their own, which is another huge thing to help with that kind of stuff. We'll be right back with more from Mark after this word from our sponsors. Attention all PHP developers, did you know that one of the best ways to improve your skills is to attend a conference? It's true, and have I ever got news for you, because PHP Tech is returning for another year of leadership, expertise, and networking, all in one event. It's a relaxing atmosphere for tech leaders and developers to share, learn, and grow professionally, while also providing you the knowledge to solve your everyday problems. You'll learn things like building for the PHP command line interface from Steve Grunwell and the dark corners of the SPL from Omni Adams. Join us April 23rd to 25th, 2024, just outside of Chicago, Illinois, or online, as all talks will be streamed live. If you can't make it during the conference itself, all talks will be available later for you to watch at your convenience. You'll even get access to last year's talks. Tickets are on sale now at tech.phparch.com, or use my link in the description for a discount. And now back to the video. And we're back with Mark Niebergall. So the other talk that one of the other talks that you're going to give at the conference this year is the PHP Coding Competition, which is actually in one of the tutorial tracks. So it's like a 3-hour block as opposed to the normal 50-minute or 30-minute block. Can you talk to us about like what people can expect when they go to that?
That's a great question. I've been to a lot of conferences, tutorials, and I feel like usually you're walking to a conference, you're there to learn, you're there to get a feel for what other people are working on, get a feel what the community's, where it's evolving. But this is really a, fingers on the keyboard. We're going to code. We're going to write things. We're going to have fun. It's supposed to be first and foremost fun and exciting and challenging. And so there's a few rules. There's going to be 5 total challenges, each one with a different. I won't go into the details of what they are. Don't want to spoil it. Give people too much a heads up, but. I will tell you that one of them is based on scaling. And so there's going to be some different challenges to take on, and people can work by themselves or they can work in pairs and try to finish these, see who can get the farthest or be the first one to complete the challenge. There are some prizes, including elephants. So there's this pretty serious prize there, thanks to John, the architect. So I'm pretty excited about it. Working through like some of the different rules and what the objectives are, and I'll present it there. So the format will be, I'll do like an introduction. We'll go over the rules, and then we'll show the challenges, and people can then start working on them. We'll have a time limit so they can start working on it. I said some of the challenges are the first one to complete it. Others are the first one, or whoever gets the best result by the end of the time. At the end of the time limit, we'll then go and review who the winners were for each category. I'll have people share their code, show what they did, how they did it, little presentation, and award the prizes. That's the kind of the format there. It's really supposed to be fun and challenging for people to actually be writing some PHP code and maybe challenging themselves more than maybe a different way than they normally do at a conference. And
so if somebody is interested in participating in this coding competition, they should have like their laptop with them and maybe PHP installed, or what are the things that people should have to be prepared for this?
Yeah, great question. So to be prepared, bring a laptop. You can use whatever IDE you want. I will be using GitHub. You can make a pull request on some of these to show your code. And that way you can also limit the time, get the pull request open by a specific time. And so coming with just that's all you really need. I will be testing it on PHP 8.3, so it should be compatible with that. but pretty flexible with that too.
That sounds like a really fascinating, like different thing that I haven't seen before. Just from my perspective, like how is it that like you're preparing to do something like this? Are you like testing this with people, or how? Because like to me, I'd be like, oh, I have to talk. This has to take 3 hours. I don't know how I would go. This is a reasonable amount of time for 3 hours, or it's not. So how have you been tackling that?
Yeah. So I've done a lot of interviews, interviewing people, where we often will do a code kata or code exercise, which has helped me kind of get a feel for how long it takes to do some of these challenges. I'm also working through them myself, so I'm not just blindsided walking into them. And so I'll have an idea of how long they should take. And also, that's also why I made some of them, the first one, complete them, and the other ones where the more time you have, the more you can complete. So there absolutely will be, people will be working up to the last minute trying to get the best results, for the best things done in order to complete it. So time-wise, it'd be about 2 hours total of coding. It's about 30 minutes before and 30 minutes afterwards with between the introduction and the actual presenting the winners.
Okay. It sounds like a really fascinating concept to me. I mean, like I probably have said this too many times, but it does sound really fascinating to kind of like see how this like flows, especially as somebody who has also given like tests, like, here, go do this thing, write this thing, and then they'll tell us if you're like a good match for our team or not. So it'll be interesting to see how this all works out. I'm curious to see how you're going to, like, if you get 100 submissions, like how are you going to review 100 submissions in like 5 minutes, right?
Yeah, and there are a few of the challenges, a couple of them where people can show me locally on their laptop. So that will help alleviate that, because I have thought about that problem.
Okay. Yeah. So, is there anything else you want to tell us about this talk at this point, or anything that anybody else should know?
No, that's a pretty good introduction to it. Hopefully that helps people feel comfortable jumping in and trying it out.
Is there anything else you'd like to direct our listeners to before we let you go today?
Hey, you can follow me on Mastodon at MB Niebergall. I'm also PHP-FIG Secretary, and there's a vacancy. So if anyone's looking for somewhere to volunteer in the community, that's a great way to become involved. There's a Discord channel for PHP-FIG, and you can reach out to any of the secretaries to become a new secretary to help out.
Oh, so can I ask a little bit of a follow up on that? So what is the role of a PHP-FIG secretary?
Yeah, so PHP Secretary, FIG Secretary, help with some pull requests, merging things, but help with a lot of the administrative side of it. So recently I ran the last elections that went through for core committee members and for secretaries. So keeping track of who's coming, who's going, and also helping projects, the different PSRs and PERS, like Perseus, moving along, just keeping them, the projects, the standards progressing over time. And so just keeping an eye on the working groups to make sure that there's progress being made.
Obviously, someone who's go apply should know some PHP. Is it more like a project management documentation type role?
Yeah, there is more of that side of it, more the project management side for the secretary. And really there's not like a lot of coding I have to do for it. If we make a website update, that's another one I do. It's just running a little Docker container and doing some Git versioning and things. So nothing too big.
Okay, yeah, that sounds like an excellent opportunity for somebody in the community. So I thank you for your time today.
Yep, thank you, Scott. Great to be here with you.
I have to say another heartfelt thank you to Mark for his time today and yours for listening. If you're not already a subscriber, make sure you subscribe with whatever your preferred method is so you can get episodes as soon as they're released. And leave us a review or a comment, as it does really help others find us. And maybe share this with a coworker so they can learn from it as well. This podcast is available both as an audio version on the PHP Architect website and a video version on the YouTube channel. This is Scott Keck-Warren for the Community Corner podcast, signing off and reminding you to keep listening, keep coding, and keep reading.